Everybody sit up straight.
All righty, we're live.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at the City of Kearney Park and Tree Board for Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. Eric, have you taken roll?
I have taken roll. Everyone is present except Christy and John.
Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from our August 15th meeting?
Yes.
And do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Public requests and petitions.
Lauren Osborne with Water's Edge Aquatics is here tonight to go over the survey number 2 results from our aquatics. So Lauren, with that, we'll give it to you.
Okay, good to be here again, board folks on the interweb. So I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Again, we have another download for you, and the goal at the end of the night is that we can have some good conversation, productive conversation, to help us get to some decision or consensus on what option we're going to be moving forward with. The reason we need to make a decision is we have further concept development to do, further refinement of costs to do, and then operating projections on the final option. We will go over the schedule at the end so you have some perspective over that. But where I want to begin is in front of you, you have copies of the most recent concepts and concept images that were taken to the general public late in July 25th, I believe. So I'm going to quickly review those. We can circle back around during Q&A if you have any questions. I say all this with the note that edits can still be made. We are still at that point that we can make modification. What we can't do is make wild modification to the point that we are completely changing the character of the facility. We have done enough exploration and enough editing at this point, or iterations, to feel positive with the 2 options we have, but within those 2 options, we can still make edits. So in front of you, you have option 1. As a reminder, if you were not at that meeting, option 1 is the aquatic center option. This means there is both indoor and outdoor aquatics represented in the option. What you're seeing is a 6-lane, 25-yard indoor pool with a therapy pool. Again, that's on the indoor portion of this aquatic center. On the exterior or the outside is the outdoor pool. That would include 0-depth entry pool down to shallower water with current channel, water slides, and kids' play features within this body of water. So again, you have 2 different documents. One is a site plan. Backside will have the concepts on it. The second page are going to be the example imagery for the corresponding options. So if you're looking at the page that has the 3 by 4 image sheet, those are example images for what you're seeing within the concept. Moving on, option 2, this is the rec center option with, you can go one more, thank you. Rec center option with gymnasium, fitness space, cardio and weight space, along with an adjacent indoor pool. Again, the indoor pool is a 6-lane, 25-yard pool. There is a therapy pool within this option as well, shown in the concept. Of note, the therapy pool in option 1 and option 2 are different. In order to get the therapy pool in on option 2 and within budget, that did have to reduce down in size. It's approximately half the size of the therapy pool you see in option 1. But like I said, if you want to flip your concept image sheet over, there's some example imagery on what we're talking about when we talk about a rec center. I do want to highlight for the rec center piece, the gymnasium that you see, what you're seeing is a size that would be 1 high school basketball court or 2 middle school sized basketball courts. So they run cross-directionally. That's what you're seeing on the concept. You can go forward. You can go ahead and do one more. Okay, so that's a kind of a quick update on those two options. Again, this is what we took to general public in July. And this was all following our previous park board meeting and following development that was occurring in and around that time. As a reminder, we are working within a budget of $30 million total dollars. We know that if the bond were to pass, there's going to be debt issuance funds that are going to need to be reallocated in order to make that happen. So construction-wise, we're looking at 29.1 is the maximum budget. So the options that you're seeing are falling in that 29.1 maximum construction budget. So although we are talking about 30, I just want to be clear that that is not all available for construction. Okay, let's move forward. So we had a second survey that was released. I believe last time I saw you, we talked about that, and that was released. It was available. Can you go back one slide? Thank you. Late July, that was the day of the public meeting through August 30th. So it was open for over a month this time. So go ahead and go one forward. The public meeting on the 25th, there were approximately 35 to 45 attendees there. What you're seeing up on the screen, we only had one interactive board that night. If you were there, you would have seen the concepts that are in front of you, the imagery that is in front of you here. We had this imagery of the site that was up that everybody has seen before with the layout of the site, and several other interactive boards. The one up here on the screen, this was the one interactive board in which someone was given a dot, and they were going to place that dot on option 1, aquatic center, or option 2, rec center with indoor aquatics. You can see here there are several more dots over on that option 2 side, but it is not an extreme amount of difference here. And then you've got 2 straddling that line. I start with this because once we review the survey, you're going to see the survey is also providing very similar feedback in that there is a split community on which option is the priority here in Kearney. That does not mean there's not support for the other one. It just means we have been asking the community to prioritize and select one, because this is the point that we're at in the project that we need to decide what direction we're going. Go ahead. So for your second survey, you had just over 1,000 respondents. This is less than survey 1, where you had approximately 1,400 respond on that. So this is just over 1,000. 78% of the total responses are coming from self-identified City of Kearney residents, and that's 821 responses. Any information from here forward on this survey is only looking at Kearney responses as they have identified. So I'm going to kind of go through this. These are going to be a little bit more simple to present on than the previous survey, so I'm just going to get to it. We asked folks, when it comes to option 1 or option 2, which one meets the needs of your household most? And you may not be able to see the itty bitty writing down there, but there's less than 2 percentage points different between these two options. 49% on option 1 and 51%, and I'm rounding, on option 2. It's actually less than 2 percentage points, or 8 responses difference between these two options in this particular question. We're going to see this theme time and time again, where it is extremely close in any of the responses that we're getting.
What is the number on the responses? Not the percentage, but the number of votes.
821 total on that question.
On that last slide.
That was on the list.
Can you go back one?
Yes.
That's 716.
No, but what are the two numbers? Is it
354 to 362, right?
Yeah, is that what you're asking?
Yes, thank you.
We then wanted to know, how frequently are you going to visit each of these options, right? So you can support or not support either one, but how are you going to attend these, if at all? When we asked that, these are multiple questions comboed into one slide here, but 19% reported that they would visit nearly every day a rec center. And you can see here, that's the highest category here. And what we want to see is that the community is going to attend either every day or several times a week. That is how you're going to bring in revenue, and it's going to support membership sales if you go that route. So we do want to see participation either nearly every day or several times a week. After that, how many times will you visit the outdoor pool, indoor pool, and recreation center? Several times a week. The outdoor pool is the highest ranking in this, but it's hardly a winner here, because although 33% are saying, yeah, I'm going to go to the outdoor pool several times a week, 29% are saying they're going to go to the indoor pool, and 32% are saying I'm going to go to the recreation center. So again, that category, it's from our perspective, it's a bit of a wash. There is not a clear differentiator there. Even if you go down to the bottom line, I or we would not visit. Again, the outdoor pool at 26% is the highest percentage there, but 23% are saying we're not going to go to the rec center. So again, from our perspective, that is not enough difference to say there is a overwhelming, quote, winner or overwhelming directive given off of this particular question. The one area we're coming back to, however, is the nearly everyday response on the rec center. Okay, and that's just a number that need and will apply to any future business planning that you do. It's good to know that they're going to use it that frequently. If you were going to go with just an outdoor swimming pool, and that's what your project was going to be, and only 8% are going to say that they're coming every day, that would be low from our perspective. But again, this is whether it's option 1 or option 2, there is something else paired with that indoor pool, whether it's the outdoor pool or a rec center. You can go ahead. So similar to that, between these two options, which option would your household use most? 46% are saying they used option 2. That is a higher response rate than option 1 at 40%. Would you like me to read off those little numbers?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm just curious what the actual vote difference is, since hardly any, we didn't have a lot of responses. I'm disappointed in the number of responses to the whole thing, so.
Okay. I can tell you this is our, the Kearney project. You have received more survey responses than the majority of our other projects.
Really?
Yeah. There's one other community who has ranked up into the thousands on a project like this. Typically, we're in the 400 to 500 range. And that was our expectation coming into Kearney with your population size. So again, from the consultant team, this was a tremendous participation level for a survey like this.
Good.
Okay. But again, for outdoor, option 1, number of responses for option 1, this question is 306. For option 2, rec center with indoor aquatics, it was 350. 111 said they would not visit either of these facilities. If you'd like a copy of these results, I'm more than happy to share those as well. I think I shared them with Lisa, you have them. But if you'd like it after the meeting. Okay, moving forward. We asked 2 different questions on borrowing money, how supportive the community was in borrowing money. This is the first one. So again, how supportive are you of funding option 1 and option 2? I broke this down a little differently because the funding questions are a bit interesting. 49%, it's the highest percentage, are saying they support borrowing money for the rec center with indoor aquatics. 47% say they support borrowing money for the aquatic center option 1. When you go look at not at all supportive or not supportive, 38% say I do not support option 1, 33% saying I do not support option 2. Again, these percentages are relatively close, but in this particular question, option 2 is higher ranking. You can move forward. Why did people say they don't support this vote? There's 3 main responses, and this is almost identical to what happened in your first survey. Number 1, it depends on the fees to utilize the facility. 2, they think users should pay to pay for this development. And 3, non-support for taxes to develop this project. So these are the highest 3 reasons why people are saying, I don't support this development at all. This is not different than what you saw in the first survey. It's consistent. So again, because of the property tax levy, we wanted to be extra clear on on the fact that the GO bonds are affiliated with a property tax levy. So we asked, it's not quite the same question, it's a more direct way to inform how a GO bond is going to be repaid and how do they support the property tax levy. You can see here, this is where a shift has happened on this particular question. When we asked, would you vote in favor of or no? Option 1 in this particular question ranked 33%, I'd vote in favor of. Right behind it at 30 is option 2. So here, the aquatic center outranked the rec center with indoor aquatics. And you can see the voting against down there. Although in vote in favor of, option 1 was higher ranking, there's also more people saying, I vote against option 1 here. So what's happened, I guess to break that down, is you have some people living here in the middle. Right? So people are a little bit more unsure about the rec center. That's what this means. So you have people who feel more strongly in this question about the aquatic center and more who are in that middle piece. I don't know, or I'm not sure, living over in the rec center side. You go ahead and advance. Again, I just wanted to showcase to you, why did you vote might or not in this question? It's the exact same. Depends on the fees to utilize. People who utilize the facility should pay for it, and I don't support taxes to develop this project. It's the same as previously. Go ahead. Of interest, once I went through this, I did want to go back and look at the age demographic in your responses, and I compared that to the population here in Kearney. I just wanted better perspective on who's reporting here and maybe who's not reporting as much. So 52% of the responses are individuals who are 45 years of age or above, as they self-identified. In 2023, that same age group is actually 38% of the population. So I only report that because in the survey, we see higher than what your population is in this particular age group. And the way we broke it down, I could dig out the particulars, I have a copy, but that we chunk out the ages here. So there's 45, and then there's gonna be another break in the 50s, another break in the 60s, etc. So we chunk them down. But I just wanted to report that there is a slightly higher reporting in this age group. And when we think about that, and we think about aquatics, especially outdoor aquatics versus a rec center, it makes sense where the rec center is falling right now, because naturally, older individuals or adults who have kids out of the home, they're going to be looking for what is going to serve their household. That's what we're asking them about, right? So year-round fitness, track, whether it's a cardio or actual class, that is consistent with the breakdown that we're seeing here in demographic. I'm not challenging any of the findings. I just want to report there is a little bit of a difference between who reported and what your population actually is, if you advance one more. So then I wanted to go look at who reported here between 17 and 44. The reason I looked at this age group is because we are getting younger folks within this. We're getting any households or individuals who may not be married or who are young families and maybe they don't have kids yet. They may have kids in the future. And then households that typically in this age range are going to have either babies, younger children, or teens within the household. So again, I just wanted to go back and double check, what is this reporting like? 48% of the respondents are living in this category for the responses, but your population is about 42% of the population. So again, slightly higher than normal, but we would also expect part of this because kids won't do this survey, right? So you have 5-year-olds within this community, and they're not going to sit down, and they're included in your population estimate. They're not going to sit down and do this. So of course we naturally expect higher representation in these older age groups, right? So again, just wanted to report where we were at with that to give some perspective on who is and is not reporting. So what are some additional themes? I'm going to sound like a parrot up here. You've heard these things before, but in this survey and at your public meeting, these themes arose yet again. There's an interest for something of all ages. So whether you're a baby or you're a senior, we need to have something available to you. There is some support by different people in the community for outdoor pool only. There are some folks who said this should have been an outdoor only project, Why are we talking about these other things? There are some saying, yes, I'm in support of the outdoor and indoor pool for XYZ reason. There's other fitness and gym opportunities within the community. We want aquatics because we have little accessibility here in Kearney. Then you have, as you know, individuals who support both the pool and the rec center, and every mix in between there. There are multiple comments that say, let's just do it all now. Why can't we have the rec center, indoor pool, and outdoor pool right now? So again, you have support from various perspectives here. I covered the comment, please go back one. I did cover the comment about fitness and gym facilities in the area. That came up several times. We talked about fees and cost to use and the concern over the tax increase. And the concern over the tax increase, time and time again, not exclusively, but it was often tied to senior fixed income. And raising property taxes is going to take those households above their threshold of means, and that's why it is concerning. So I briefly wanted to go over the National Community Survey. I'm sure you all have been debriefed on that. There are a few things in that I just wanted to point out because we can pull some of that to inform not just the decision, but how you may program a facility, what may be included in there. Go ahead. So a few things I just want to report. Quality of the overall Parks and Rec opportunities, 70% are saying it's excellent or good. That's similar to the benchmarks that were compared in that survey. I do not have details on this survey. I'm only pulling out the snippets that I had access to. So I can't answer questions about this particular survey. Overall health and wellness opportunities, 53% say good or excellent. That is lower than the benchmark. Health services, 43% saying good or excellent. That is lower than the benchmark. Opportunities for education, culture, and arts, 52% say good or excellent, which is similar to the benchmark. I highlighted those in red. If you're falling lower than the benchmark, that means a few things. One, and especially when you see around the 50s, there's going to be opportunity to come back up into the average. And so when we are making decisions, we can fall back on them and say, well, we see here that we're underperforming or underserving you. How can we better do that? And I think that we can come back to this as we talk about the options and have discussion about how can we make these ways better in order to be serving the community to a higher satisfaction level. So within parks and recreation opportunities, I'm only going to talk about those in red. Recreational opportunities, 50% are giving you kind of the green light or thumbs up. That is lower than the benchmark. So what this tells me and our team is that an increase or providing more opportunity to increase recreation is a desire here in Kearney, at least to get up to national average levels or national benchmark levels. Services, recreation programs and classes, less than 50% are saying that it's essential or very important. You could read this one of two ways. You could say less than 50% care. Therefore, we don't need to address this right now. And I'm not sure how you're interpreting other data staff when it comes to this survey, but it's how does the city, how does the park board, how do elected officials want to view this, and where do you want to be? From our seat, we want to see you at least at a benchmark, right? So increasing opportunity for programs and classes, that's something to look at. And then you can see right here, it's very explicit, recreation centers and facilities, you're falling lower than your benchmark here.
And Lauren, the percent essential or very important, I think this was actually not essential or very important in the next 2 years. This was actually how happy they were with the opportunities, which is different because they asked how much should we focus on park activities, but they didn't break them down. So
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes. So that's how we understand that too, is the percentage. You can, if you just look at rate the following services percent of excellent or good. So 34% are saying you're good in the rec centers or recreational facilities. So not only is that a pretty low number, you're lower than the benchmark. So again, it's something to go back on and kind of cross-check ourselves to see, can we improve that in some sort of way, or can we touch that in some sort of way to get that to improve? Go ahead. Health and wellness, if you read the details about what was included in health and wellness, it wasn't exactly directly related to Parks and Recreation, but I report it because one of the line items within this category is preventative health services. So when we think about health and wellness, although none of us are in the health services field for the purposes of tonight's meeting, what we do is considered a health and wellness service, depending on what we're looking at. So 35% are ranking availability of those services. They're ranking it good or excellent. That's low, and it's lower than the benchmark. So when we think about Parks and Recreation, we can also be thinking about how can we include preventative health services, whether that's fitness classes or just aqua aerobics or whatever it is. Can we serve health services in some sort of way? Again, that's at least how we are viewing it. You can go ahead and advance. Education, culture, and arts. 52% are kind of give you the thumbs up there, similar to your benchmark. Again, it's those items in red that we're calling out. Opportunities to attend cultural, arts, and music activities. 37% saying excellent or good, which is lower than average or lower than your benchmark. Community support for arts. The community has ranked that low as well. 35% saying excellent or good, lower than the benchmark. And then adult educational opportunities. Again, all of this seems really, could be seen as far away from this project, but from our seat, if there's any way to start to fold those into this project, that's going to lead to success, right? And that's going to lead to you being able to serve the community in some sort of way. So adult educational opportunities, right? So let's say you did have a meeting room, or you did have a gym, or you had some space in order to host some sort of class. That's going to start to speak to increasing opportunities for your adult education. It could be recreation or otherwise. So I want to transition a bit. Let's talk about fees a little bit. We know that fees are going to be important. I'm going to talk to you about operational projections here in just a moment, and kind of where we are and debrief you on that. But what I want to review are the area fees. So when the community is thinking about fees, they know what is around you. And they are going to expect that Kearney is at least in line, if not lower, than what's going on around you. You can go ahead and advance. So we looked at the fees for Liberty Community Center and Excelsior Springs Community Center. And I'm going to give you a summary slide, so I can give you a copy of this. You don't need to worry about writing it down. Neither of these communities are offering resident discounts. They charge residents and non-residents the same for their community center. I verified that on the phone yesterday. So within each of these two centers, they have day passes and they have memberships. I'll give you the range here in just a moment. This is just to indicate to you that we did go look at the fees and how they are breaking fees down. Fees is not as simple as one person, you get charged this. It's tiered. There's levels to charges. So that's what this slide is showing. You can advance. We also looked at the Springs Aquatic Center in Kansas City, Missouri, and Plattsburgh Pool, of which all four of these facilities we looked at, they have all been named throughout your study. We already know your community is going to these facilities. They told us that. So that means they know what their fees are, and they have some level of expectation. The Springs, if you've never seen it, it is a larger aquatic center. It's more comprehensive. What we are looking at for Kearney, that it's apples and oranges a little bit. That is more of a water park. What we're looking at for you is we would call an aquatic center. It's more appropriately sized. It's meant to serve this community, not bring in folks from 20, 30 miles away, like what Tiffany Springs is designed to do. So you can see here the breakdowns for the Springs, and then Plattsburgh Pool as well, the forward one. So when we group it all together, here are the fee ranges that we're seeing at these case facilities, right? The facilities nearby. For the community center, daily admission is anywhere between $8 to $12 per person for the day. Season or year passes is going to range depending on, are you a senior? Is it an individual? Is there 2 of you on a membership? Are there 6 of you on a membership? Because again, it's all tiered. Community centers range from $330 a year to $850 a year. At those 2 community centers that I just showed you. The aquatic center, when we look at those 2, anywhere between $5 and $10. Plattsburgh Pool is on the lower end at $5. And I can tell you, your community very much is aware of Plattsburgh Pool and regularly mentions it. So we know that that's where they're going. And when we think about fees, it's likely where their minds are going too. That's what they know and likely what they're going to be expecting. In the aquatic center's case, there's going to be 2 things that happen in your membership. most likely. This is a decision for staff and this board whenever it's time. So what I'm about to say, this is not fact. This is just what we would expect given the nature of the aquatic center we're exploring for you. There likely would be annual memberships because you have that indoor pool and the outdoor pool, but you likely would also offer seasonal memberships because of that outdoor pool that's there. Unlike the community center where you likely would have an annual membership. There's a lot to dive into when it comes to membership, I realize that, but I just wanted to comment that when you see that marking season or year pass, community center is likely a year, and the aquatic center is most likely a season and or year pass for membership, okay? For the aquatic center, $75 to $350. That's gonna be the range that we would be working with for your different fee structures, okay? So yeah, go ahead and advance. So we have brought a new team member onto the team recently. We just got this sorted out this week, actually, and it's only Tuesday. So we brought Ballard King and Associates onto the team. They are the specialist who is going to be working on your operating ranges for that rec center. Going into this project, we did not anticipate going the rec center route, but here we are. So I don't have those operational ranges for you today, but they are going to be ready here in the next 3 weeks. We are in process of setting that meeting up with Ballard King to go through the information they need in order to kick us back those ranges. So when it comes to this, they are going to be looking at both revenues and expenditures. And again, they're going to be giving ranges. So when we think about revenues, they're going to look at potential programs and they're going to look at market fees. That means what's going on in and around us and base revenues off of that. Expenditures, they're going to dive into ranges for staffing, contract and commodity line items, and capital improvements as examples. And they will be producing those ranges. Whenever we have that, of course, we'll share it to you with you. I'm not sure if that's going to guide today's discussion or not. So far, the conversation has been built around what are the fees to utilize this thing, which is why we went and looked at your local area facilities here and gave you those ranges. We expect that Kearney is not going to exceed those. And I believe that's the expectation of your community as well. In fact, they need to be in line or they need to be coming under what other areas or what other agencies are doing. So to give you a quick schedule debrief here, so effective today, 9/19 through November 2, there's 4 main things we need to get done. So we have a little over a month to do that. We need to establish the final option. We have adjustments to make on the concept for whatever option is going to be going to the vote in April, along with those corresponding costs. We need to finalize those operating cost projections, which that's in progress right now. And then we'll need to work on the final report for this project. In or around November 3rd, the consultant team owes staff a final report for review. They will have the opportunity to look through that, digest it. We can make edits. We will be back in front of you November 21st with final presentation, meaning final option. December 4th, Board of Aldermen, final presentation, and then that leads into the holidays and then education of the vote starting in January. So we do have quite a bit to accomplish between now and the end of the year, which is why this meeting is happening. And we are really soliciting your feedback, and we need to get consensus with this group, or that's our preference, to get consensus with this group, so then we can then continue conversations with Board of Aldermen about the final option. Okay, so told you I'd make it shorter. I think I made it shorter than last time. We'll open this up now. I anticipate a lot of discussion. We'll get into it. If I don't have anything readily available to me, I have my computer here and I can always pull something up if we need to.
Thank you, Lauren.
I still am just amazed at how close everything was. And both, I think I can speak for Ryan, when we had the last meeting on the 25th, we were like, please just make it one way or the other. So it's clear cut, and it's not.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, and we've got a tough decision that we've got to make, or you have to make to recommend to the Board of Aldermen.
Is that a typical response, or does it usually go one way or the other?
It typically is tilting in some fashion. I think Kearney is really interesting and unique because this is not like a year ago, you all decided to move forward. This has been a 20-year conversation. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So you have people who are aware of that and that history. And I think you're seeing that in your survey and some of the things you're seeing. For example, the comment, I thought this was an outdoor only project. Or I don't want to spend all the money for this, just give me a simple outdoor pool.
Mhm.
And you see comments like that. So I think there's a few things living there that really speak to the history. And then you've got changing dynamics, especially over the last 20 years, a growing community, a changing population, and just changing world and parks and recreation in general and what people expect. So now you have the rise of really two different needs.
Mhm.
If we were to step back and we had all the funds and you said, we can do everything, that's what your community wants. So this is really prioritizing, is it outdoor pool now or is it rec center now?
Right.
And I hear you. I wish we had more, the more surveys, the better. The more tilt we get, the better. And I can tell you the consulting team feels the exact same. We wish this was tilted. It makes everyone's job easier in this. So, I guess I wanted to kind of speak to the survey thing, and I hear you that we wish this tilted.
And I do see that the results are more 45 and older, so that's going to lean towards probably the rec center, like you said. That outdoor aquatic center is probably more geared towards families with young kids.
And
And I don't know why they didn't, I don't know why they didn't sign up on the survey.
I know.
Because they're busy with their young kids.
They're too busy with the kids,
Which
right?
is very, very common, that those young, especially the younger families with babies and toddlers and school-aged kids, that's what they tell us too. And you'll see them come into a public meeting and they're just dragging everything and they're happy just to have made it. So we do try to keep that in mind. From our seat, we know that. We know there's a segment that cannot and will not be able to participate. So we do try to keep that in mind, and it's partly how you got option one. And the amenities you're seeing in option one. Your first survey was a tremendous success. They gave us some clarity. But even then, we wanted to ensure that there was space for our seniors too. How can we program this? What are they gonna have within this option? So we do try to keep everyone in mind.
Well, I'll go first if you guys don't care. Okay, so living here for the past 30 years, growing up without a pool was kind of lame. You had to go to Liberty, right? And it was the community center there, which is the same. Nothing has really changed. You have a simple outdoor pool, and then you have the inside rec center, which works perfect. So for the past 4 years, I go over to the community center in Excelsior, and I utilize that thing like crazy. During the winter, I'm there 4 days a week. I'm participating in pound and Zumba and Pilates and yoga. Pickleball, obviously. Sorry guys, so lame. Basketball, and it is packed. That place is packed. So in my mind, if you do a rec center, you're going to get more revenue consistently throughout the year. I think we should start there. That's my opinion.
How many employees did you tell us last time are gonna have to run the rec center?
I didn't.
Was it 40? It was around 16 for the outdoor
Give or take,
facility.
yeah.
I couldn't remember what it was for the indoor.
Indoor, I'd have to go back. I can pull that up here in a moment. I don't recall off the top of my head the projection for staffing on the indoor. I'm just guessing you'll be in that 16 to 20, 22 range, just because anytime it's open, you're going to have a guard. So the same ratio doesn't quite apply. So you'll have at least one on duty, let's say up to 3 to 4 at any given time during peak or busy. You know, if you have birthday parties, you're going to need more guards, that type of thing. So 1 on the low end, 4 on the higher end on that indoor.
Well, I've been here 11 years, and all I've heard is the community wants a pool. right?
Kearney needs a pool.
That's all I
Kearney
heard.
needs a pool.
Kearney needs a pool. Kearney needs a pool. So, yeah, interesting, with the meetings that you had, how some people said, why are we talking about both? Well, where's the pool? That kind of thing. And now people are saying, well, we have pools in our community. We don't need it anymore. I feel like this offers something different than a small community, pool as well. So, yeah, I'm really shocked at the response.
I did bring the first survey with me because I was thinking about the HOA pool situation, and I couldn't, again, I don't do the best at remembering every data point from everything throughout the study, so I don't copy. We did ask in the first survey, do you live in a neighborhood that offers you a use of a pool through a homeowners association, apartment, et cetera? So out of just over 1,200 Kearney residents, 76% said no. That's 949 responses. So that was something we've talked about, is what is the HOA pool situation? I don't have a count for you, but we did consider that. But HOA pools are inherently, the character is different, what they offer is different. And we see this in communities across the board, that when an HOA discussion is being had, it's, well, everyone has one, we don't need an outdoor pool. Well, one, not everyone does have one. Two, the character is fairly different. They typically are not offering swimming lessons. Often they're not having shallow water. There's not the family, kids features that are often seen in municipal pools at those HOA pools. So there are some differentiators there. Again, on top of the fact that not everyone has access to an HOA facility.
Right. But some of those same people have said, I'm already paying for that pool. So I would assume if they did use the municipal pool, then it's going to be more of a daily pass rather than probably a membership.
Likely.
More than likely, so.
Likely.
We have an awful lot of our young families go to Plattsburgh because it's an outdoor pool and it's a very kid-friendly type thing. And a bunch of those people, like I said, they're too busy to do the survey or whatever. I don't know that a family with small kids would be as inclined to vote for a gymnasium when they could have an outdoor pool. If it was just there was only one option, I would say yes, but since we got two, would they? I don't know, because some of them are going to be, well, yeah, I would vote for that, but I'm not going to vote for that. It is by having the two options. If we pick the wrong one, are we going to get a bunch of people that, no, I'm not going to vote for that? So, I mean, by having it almost 50-50, this is like super tricky.
Half the community is going to be upset
Yes.
with our
And there was
decision.
one of those questions on that was
Do you
the
really win?
data that,
Half the people are
like,
going
very
to not be
good.
in.
I feel like there's more people who are in support of the rec center option, and there's less pushback from the people that wanted the outdoor pool for the rec center option. Like, there's just a slightly higher people wanting the rec center, less people pushing against the rec center. I've also been really encouraged by the use of the pickleball complex and how that has really brought a lot of teenagers and families and younger people out to give them something to do. And we are constantly saying in this community, there's nothing for the kids to do. And I feel like an indoor rec center would give them an opportunity after school or on the weekends to do things in the colder months. I really thought that the aquatic center results would have blown us out of the water. When I walked out of the last meeting, I thought everybody's going to want to vote for that. I thought there was going to be no difference, but after seeing the results of the survey and talking to people in the community, I really feel like the rec center is probably what better serves the population that's here.
I agree with you, Connie, on both ends. And to piggyback on the teenagers, over at Excelsior, a lot of times the pickleball people have to not fight, but share the basketball. And so then you have 6 courts, they're all full of teenagers. And then you have the older community with pickleball. And where I was going with the generate more revenue for the recreation, in my mind, a perfect center would be option 2 with future for just a simple Plattsburgh-like pool. And I feel like the money that we generate from the rec center would be able to go towards that.
I can say, so option 1, we initially did operating projections on that option 1. We've actually presented on that to you back in April. It wasn't identical to the option 1 you see now, but there's a scenario that we presented at that time. And I just want to let you know, the expenditures were projected to be around the 400,000 mark for that option. We know a rec center is going to be more than an aquatic center. Longer hours, year-round, et cetera. So I agree with you, 100%. It's going to likely pull in more revenue, but we have more expenditure to offset as well.
Right.
Unless you know, the Ballard King gets back to us and that number is lower than what we anticipate. And then maybe, you know, if you are positive in your revenue, it does roll over to capital improvements, or it does roll over to a special projects fund. That would be, absolutely, that could be an opportunity if it ends up that way. Yeah.
Well, I'll throw in my 2 cents. I'm excited to hear there's some support for the rec center. Of course, in my community, my neighborhood where I live, just right by this, the only excitement I've heard from my neighbors, definitely they're excited for the rec center. I'd like to think about voters. Who's going to turn out to vote? If the younger families would all turn out, absolutely, they would vote more for the aquatic center. They didn't fill out the survey, and would they come and vote? We know that the elderly community is going to turn out to vote. Usually in a negative sense, a lot of things for a tax increase, but there is quite a bit of excitement from the neighbors and from other groups that they would use this. So if I'm thinking, where are the votes? Where can we get the votes to get something passed? I have to lean that direction. Is that the best thing for the young families? And I love young families. I'm a teacher. I want those little kids to have their outdoor pool. But, you know, will the votes come from there? I'm pretty sure we'll hear a lot of voting from the seniors. I think we'll have a better chance of passing it if we go with that.
And I think you all are making perfect points, even about the young families. And we've had internal dialogue a little bit about young families in the rec center. So it's easy to say, yes, adults, seniors, you go to Excelsior Springs nearly every day. Track, absolutely for them. But how can kids use it? And so I think there is opportunity with the rec center to rethink how we can engage those young families, how we can get kids in there. Because it's more than just basketball. It's more than just swimming in the pool. It's maybe, and I get excited to talk about this type of activity, because there is quite a bit you can do. You can have toddler time in the gym. Mm-hmm. You have toys there. They come in January and it's frigid and their parents are ready to get them out of the house. So there's opportunity to think about serving those same families who are interested in the outdoor pool, and how can they get in the door, right? How can they also utilize it? So more than anything, I just want to communicate there's opportunity with the rec center above and beyond just basketball at the gym, maybe pickleball, walking and running at the track, fitness floor.
Well, if we build it, I want to see a lot of programming in that place. I want to see it full and being used. I don't want to see it just sitting there empty.
Right.
I want to see a lot of things going on there.
Put pickleball in there and it's going. It'll be full.
I'll tell you a little bit about me. I live in Prairie Village, that's where I live. I'm on the park board for that community as well. And we just had a big discussion about pickleball there. So if you build it, they will come and I will ship some folks up here because there is no shortage of players.
Now, in this 29 million, is that going to furnish everything inside the building as well? All the I guess, a weight room and all the
Cardio.
the diving boards and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the FF&E. We have not itemized out every single thing that would be needed within this space. Again, that typically is coming at a later phase where everything gets itemized out. We do have an FF&E line item. Once we're done here, I don't have it off the top of my head, and I don't have it printed, but I could go look at our FF&E line item because we did put budget in there for fitness equipment.
Well, in this community, we've had a thing here a while back where the school passed a bond to build a school, but did not pass enough money to furnish it. So we need to make sure that we don't run into that, but that's why.
Sure, absolutely, I'm on board.
In their competition pool, how does that function recreationally for families to come in and swim?
Yeah.
That works?
It does. Having no zero depth and having no shallow water, it is going to be a challenge for your kids. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you about that. There are opportunities to continue to offer swimming lessons. There's different platforms. You can put things in the water to allow kids to stand in the water. You can teach it off the deck and bring the kids into the water. There's opportunity, but it's not as flexible as when you have a kids pool, where it's zero depth down to, let's say, even 3 feet, 3.5 feet. That really opens up the door. You can get kids in there, but adults will have to be with them. They will not be able to have a birthday party, 6-year-olds, and then just be able to enter the pool. It's going to be too deep for them. To get a competition pool, the shallowest you can go is 3.5 feet. When you talk to your swim team, they're going to say, we really would prefer 4 feet or deeper. I'll kind of break that down just a little bit more. For a swimmer, swimmers can be of any height, but especially those taller ones, when they go to do a flip turn at the wall, 3.5 feet is real short, and you can get people who hit the bottom of the pool when they do that flip, which is why they prefer 4 feet. You can make 3.5 work. So to go back, you can do some of the programming, but not quite all of it, and you should expect that adults are going to need to be with the kids, and you're not going to get as many kids in that pool, in the competition pool, as you would in a kids pool or leisure pool that's shallower.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, then that you're saying that if we do the rec center, this is really geared for older kids and adults, because little kids who need the zero entrance and the short, shallow water, that ain't gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they can't use it. There are ways and means and methods, but is it designed for them? Not necessarily, no. There's opportunity, but it's not designed for them to use it like they would the outdoor pool that you're seeing in it.
See, that's where Excelsior, when they built their deal, they did not put a competition pool inside, and they had it for the kids. Mm-hmm. And they had the rec center and everything else, and it was a more family-oriented deal. This sounds like it's a very teenage and adult up type facility, what we're building here, not a kid facility. Is that correct if we go with it?
What's that last point?
If we go with the rec center versus having an outdoor pool, we're kind of eliminating some little children swimming.
I would say yes. And just one more piece, you may have altered memberships from families due to that. I'm not saying that you're going to have I don't know. I'm not the specialist in rec center operating projections. It's why we brought Ballard King on. But just from my industry knowledge and experience, we can expect that fewer families will purchase memberships if there's not a real opportunity at the pool. They'd have to have quite a bit of programming for kids in order to make that feasible for their household and then bring those kids with them. There's opportunities for programming, but that doesn't always correlate to memberships. You could have a kids program, toddler time in the gym, but it doesn't mean that a membership is going to be purchased necessarily. They could, absolutely, but likely if there's nothing else for those kids to do, they're probably going to pay the day admission for a program like that. So it's kind of a one and done, and we hope to see them again.
But you're not going to see as many birthday parties or things there if you can't have it for the little kids.
No.
You're taking that recreation piece away. Yes?
In these, the options presented take them away.
Yes.
I'm sorry, in option 2 presented, yes, it takes that opportunity away to a degree, yes.
Looking at the indoor pool, wasn't there like a zero entry, that little lip that comes out? Was that what that was?
Yeah,
If I remember right.
It's ADA.
Oh, it's ADA.
Yeah, it's ADA.
That's not going to help with children coming into
It's
the
just a
water.
ramp.
No,
It's just a
and
ramp,
it's actually a
okay.
staircase. It's an ADA staircase, not
Oh,
a
okay.
ramp. So it
Okay.
doesn't have zero depth right there.
Okay,
We did it as a method to get your adults and seniors and those with low mobility into the pool that is not ADA share.
okay.
The reason it has the bump out is so that if you did want to have a swim lesson class, but you also wanted to have lap swimming, or you also had some swim team going on, you had a little bit of additional space to be able to perform some other program at the same time. In option 1, I believe option 1 and 2, we have that little bump out. You know what I mean? Can you see the staircase?
Yeah, it's in both options.
Yeah. So again, that is for programming purposes to try to give you, under the budget, as much space as possible in that pool. And again, it's not any shallower of water, it's you have additional water so you can have competing programs going on at the same time to some degree.
And the depth of that pool is 4 feet,
4 feet at the shallowest.
shallow end.
Let's say 3.5 to 4. That's a decision
Right.
we need to make at some point, and it's going to be a conversation with the school district and the swim team to find out what is it that they are really going to need in order for them to utilize it. That equates to revenue coming in. So we need to make sure we understand that appropriately. So let's say 4 feet on the shallowest end, but we got to get down to deep water because we have diving boards in there.
Right, that's what I was
So we would
thinking,
need to
okay.
get down to about 12.5 feet down at its deepest. The benefit behind that, the deep water, is whether you train lifeguards yourselves, or, the city trains lifeguards, or you have an outside group come in to do that, that deep water is going to allow you to train lifeguards on site. And that is great. That is the preferred option for communities, because it means you can not only hire from Kearney, it means they're not driving outside of Kearney to then go get training. So that will help you in your recruitment, because you can train on site.
But again, if you got a family with small kids who they're used to going to Plattsburgh, they're just going to keep going to Plattsburgh because it's set up for their kids. This won't be a facility for them, which means they may or may not even vote for it.
Correct. The lap pool has really been the competition pool has been the most consistent part of this whole project. From the onset, there's a high need for competitive swimming opportunities here in Kearney, primarily Purple Wave and through the school. Right now, they're traveling outside of Kearney. So from the kickoff, competition pool was really at the forefront of most conversations. Even at public meetings, I'd say if 50% or more of the people who are attending your public meetings are coming to talk about competitive swimming and the need for that and the support for that. I just wanted to comment. I hear you. Yep, absolutely. I'm just here to report where we're at. But these are all the implications behind decisions that are going to get made.
But when we first started, the competition pool was still part of the original plan for the outdoor pool as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that we understood that, yes, that always has been important, but it was also incorporated in the idea of the outdoor pool too.
Mm-hmm.
So that hasn't changed. That's still
Correct.
has always been
Correct.
a deal.
What do we think the usage, like percentage of use this thing is going to get from Purple Wave and the swim team versus from the community itself?
haven't done the analysis on that. That's going to come down to what you all decide. This is the city's facility. Any outside group, Purple Wave or otherwise, unless they are contributing financially to the capital development, it typically is going to be, the city is going to decide when and how they can utilize that. Both teams are going to have their set practice times. The school district, clearly they cannot practice or compete when school is in session. So you can anticipate during the school year, Monday through Friday, during the day, that's likely going to be community open rec opportunity. Swim team when in session is likely going to want some Friday time, Saturday time if they're meeting, likely some Sunday time, and then after school when the season is in session. So there's a lot of conversation to be had about who, when, how much, what are those fees to be had.
So they're going to use it when other people want to use it too.
Yeah, there's going to be a conflict to some degree with these competitive swim teams and the general community use, yes.
So if we went with option one, then the rest of the community would still have their pool while the school is using the indoor part.
But the outdoor won't be open
But
during
the season is, right.
Yeah,
right.
so.
But the Purple Wave would be in the summertime, because that's when they are.
Right, right.
Good point.
But I guess my question was more, what are their needs? Not what are we going to limit them to, but what, if we just asked Purple Wave, if we just asked the swim team, how much would you utilize this pool? What are their needs? Are they going to use it? Are they going to want to use it half the time that it's open? So then that leaves our community, if we approved it, the other half of the time, or is it 10% or 20,
Right.
That's my question.
I wish I had the information, because Ryan and I both talked with the Purple Wave, and they practice, down at Liberty, and they have their certain times that they practice, and they limit them to the certain times of practice. And I think it was up to 2.5 hours a day, 3 or 4 times a week that they go, and I have that, what they paid Liberty for that. But that would be strictly based upon you as a park board determining how much are we going to allow them as a team. Now, if a member, if they have their own membership, naturally they could come in
Right.
and practice on their own, but
Right.
as, quote, a Purple Wave team, or, and then dealing with the school, if that's the route we go, whichever way, naturally we'll have to determine that. Ryan, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think you pretty much hit it.
We have spoken to the swim team coach. Again, it's one of those things, I need to consult my notes and go back and look at the school district's swim team needs, but I can go find that and email Eric and have them email you that if you like. It's not going to be minimal. Swim teams are going to want, during school year, during season, they're going to want several hours. They've got boys and girls that are going to need that. Of note, if diving ever were to become an option on dive team, and the dive team wants to come into this facility, swimming and diving cannot happen at the same time. The diving boards are in the way of the lanes and vice versa. But I can look at that. If you want me to go find the notes from the swim team conversation, we can find that and shoot it back out.
And the swim team would utilize all 6 lanes at the same time, or would there be like 2 lanes open for community and 4 lanes for swim team? Or
Sure.
would they want
sure.
all 6 lanes?
They're gonna want 6.
They're gonna want all 6.
Can they make 4 work if that's the only option and be able to stay here in Kearney? I can't speak
Right.
for them, but
Okay.
likely, because that means they're not having to get all their kids over to another community. So I think it's a great line of thought that if you have 6, can they use 4 and we keep 2 open for some lessons or laps, whatever it's gonna be? I think it's something to
It's a
explore.
conversation to have.
It's a little bit far ahead operationally for where we are, but your mind's in the right place, because you're thinking about how can we get as many people in here, maximize use, make people as happy as we can, and then from my seat and maybe from staff seat and probably your seat too, maximizing revenue potential, which is gonna help with the cost recovery, right? So I'm here with you, and
Well, I don't want to just build this for the swim team to
Right.
use after the community votes for it and pays for it, and then they can't get in there to swim.
No, I don't think
Because-
that'll be an issue, because through schools, you can only do like an hour and a half to 2 hours of practice a day, right? And I know the swim team sometimes goes early in the morning, like 5 to 6:30, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking the swim team, I'm not even saying this is the way it's gonna work, but in my mind, possibility would be swim team swims from 5 to 6:30 a.m., water aerobics for a few hours, and then maybe Purple Wave comes on in the afternoon, or the evening even, because like last night I was at Clayview, and that's where Purple Wave swims, and it was 6 to 7:30 they were there.
And you're gonna ask employees to get up and go to work at 4:30 in the morning at the pool? To have it, to get it cleaned up, get it ready for them to come in and swim?
I don't know how that works.
If you're gonna have them there at 5 o'clock, that's how it's gonna work. You're gonna have them there at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay,
So, I mean, that's asking a lot for employees to do that.
yeah, 1 or 2 people.
Isn't that what time Excelsior opens, is 5?
Yeah, they're pretty early.
Yeah, I think they open at
Yeah,
5.
I'm pretty sure, I actually know some people that work there, I'm pretty sure they get there at 4. It's not really
At
outside.
4 o'clock in the morning?
Mhm.
Oh, wow, okay.
I mean, if they open at 5, yeah.
Days might
See,
be a
I
little
was
different.
thinking we'd be open like 7:30, 8 o'clock, so
Oh, no.
you're saying 5 o'clock, wow.
People want to go and do their morning workout and
Yeah.
And then get their
in the
kids
rec
ready for
center
school.
area,
Yeah.
You're gonna have your people that wanna work out at 5 or 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the gym.
Mhm.
I stand corrected, I didn't know they opened that early, so.
Randy went this morning at 6. didn't he?
Yeah, I went to CrossFit this morning at 6, and we had 5 people, and the 5 o'clock class was just finishing up when I got there, and I had like 11 people there this morning. I was blown away.
I found the school district information. They need it for 6 lanes for 1.5 hours for each of their seasons.
And that's Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday,
The desire to use a local pool depends on the options the team will have. If it meets the requirements listed above, then I don't see why we would consider other options. The team will meet the pool from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. every day, including Saturdays during the 2 seasons. They said, that's 3 hours though.
Yeah.
That's not 1.5.
Maybe it's 1.5 for boys and 1.5 for
Yeah,
girls.
maybe. And I'm trying to.
That's
I thought
peak,
they told me
2:30 to
when it was, but
5:30.
Do they have a dive team? Does high
they
school?
do.
Dive team hasn't come up on our side. We've not spoken to coaches. I can't even tell you Kearney has a dive
Well,
team.
yes, high school diving teams are only allowed to dive on 1-meter springboards. The minimum suggested depth of a diving well is 11'6", but it is safer to go at 12 foot. 2 diving boards in the deep end for practice purposes. So we looked at it all, we just haven't looked at it for a while. because we
Yeah,
took-
and I have that information from the Purple Wave, and I will email you that information.
And the reality is that they're paying other facilities now outside of town. So they would, instead of them spending their money outside of town, the hope is that they would utilize our facility so that they could help offset some of the costs with their use.
So it'd be a very dependable source of revenue.
Mhm. But if I remember correctly, overall, it's just a drop in the bucket of what we would need to run the facility. Is that
Well,
correct?
on a positive note, I can tell you that most fitness facilities, their prime time is gonna be 6 to 8 a.m., 10 to 12 noon, and then like 5:30 to 7:30. So this would technically fall outside of that, just, right outside of that. So, it might be a best of both worlds scenario. If that
I just didn't know they opened up that early.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of early risers, go-getters, man.
I
I'm not
figured
one of
7,
them,
8
but-
o'clock is open, so, yeah.
And one of the things, you're exactly right, Connie, the fees are not going to cover all the expenses, which
Right.
is exactly why both ballot issues have to pass.
Right,
You have to have the property tax to build the facility for construction, and then the sales tax is going to help us subsidize.
operate it.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think it goes back to which one bringing the votes?
Ultimately, yeah, I believe Lisa's correct. You know, which one has the best chance is the real question.
And I don't know, it's a crystal ball kind of thing. You've given us a lot of wonderful data, and I thank you for all of your work getting that. Who would have dreamed it would have come down to just, it's high.
That's why we go back, it's why I even want to bring up the national survey. Again, there's no smoking gun here, it's just what is everything we know? And how can we accommodate those areas that your community is reporting to you that they're not as happy as maybe they'd like to be? And if it's the rec center, you know, in looking at those items in red, the rec center seems to be able to hit several of those areas to increase satisfaction, you know, in the ways that they were asked in the survey. And I don't say that because I'm saying option 2 is it. I just, that's where my mind is going, that when I see the national survey and the responses there, and I think about the rec center, there seems to be a bit more opportunity to go address those items.
I'm having a really hard time getting the National Community Survey results on my phone because it's really interesting. If you would, it's the demographic information for Kearney is really interesting to me. And Dr. Miller and I were kind of talking about it because I shared the results with her. And our community, most of them don't have children, they're older. We are having less and less people that can afford right now. It doesn't mean that it's going to change, but housing, we don't have a lot of quality, affordable housing options for people that are, for our teacher salaries, for our police officer salaries, for young people just starting out. You know, I have kids that are young adults, they cannot afford to live in Kearney. We don't have those kinds of options right now. And so that is already making impacts to who is voting and who is living here.
That's a good point.
I haven't looked at the recent census, but looking at the previous one, about 50% of the community were young families with kids still in school. That was 50%. Do you know where we stand now? Are you saying that has changed? Because that's still 50% of our community.
I think we can change
It's an
that.
interesting piece of information.
Mhm.
Just drop your laptop. Just click on the full.
I don't know how to do.
There's got to be a way to, this is what you want, young families.
Oh, that's my big for kids, little kids.
Well, this conversation that she's having right now, again, I don't have the answer for you, I just want to tell you that some communities to address this, the fee or membership tiering, there's opportunities not only for scholarships, but there's opportunities depending on how far you want to go with it for income-based fee structures. So there's, just because you set fees doesn't mean that's a one and done. I'm not saying you have to do that. Some communities address this differently. But certainly we've seen it over and over in this project, the concern over being able to afford to continue to live here if this passes due to it being a property tax increase.
I have a question, just looking at the two scenarios. If it is scenario 2 that we choose, the outdoor pool is going to be cheaper to add later, I would venture, than it is if we have option 1 now and have to build a 2-story indoor gym, upstairs fitness, walking track.
That's a great point. I struggle with the word cheaper because it won't be cheaper.
Less expensive to build an outdoor pool than it would be to add a building, 2-story building, indoor
Yes.
gyms, walking track, fitness equipment.
I think it's a great point.
I don't know, but So just off the top, that's what I was thinking.
That would be the assumption. Again, I hate to say definitively 100%, I'd need to go back and look at the calculators, talk with the architect, but assumption would say, and just common sense would say that, yes, that is accurate, because you have less building going on with the outdoor pool than the two-story rec center.
But we're talking 20 years from now.
Yeah, 20 years.
According to our last meeting, right? Because the bonds have to be paid off before we can build. So we're not, it's gonna end up, inflation, it's gonna be a lot more
Well, I think what he's
expensive.
saying is take inflation on both of those.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be cheaper in today's, if we're just
Right.
comparing the outdoor pool, no. But is it, with inflation, is it gonna be cheaper to build the rec center now than what it's gonna be to build the rec center later, and then go look at the aquatics piece, and with inflation and increasing cost, is the rec center gonna be more expensive if we wait, when we compare all that? I venture to say yes. I venture to say yes.
Lauren, the Excelsior is community pool, or community center. From what I understand, that was an indoor facility, and they just added an outdoor with a canopy pool. And from what, simply because I overall didn't work on that pool, the outdoor pool, from what he says, that was a strategic maneuver on Excelsior's, because it was exactly that. It was cheaper to build a rec center now with an indoor, and then put the outdoor facility in later. So I would think that would hold true.
Yes. I just wish I could give you that number. So when I'm asked that question, I like to be able to back it. Like, here is the math, and I just don't have that. That's why I say, yeah, common sense would say yes, that argument is true.
But still, the additional building of an outdoor aquatics is way down the road. So at that point,
Yeah.
how does that
may
actually
be-
factor in, anyway?
It may be reimagined into
I
something
mean, we're also
completely
gonna grow over
different.
the next
Yeah.
20 years too, so.
The tax base probably will grow.
Exactly.
The new economics leader
Right.
is working really hard.
Well, you make a great point, Connie. The nature of aquatics in 20 years, if you think 20 years ago, it's so dramatically
Yeah.
different. Rec center, it's probably gonna have a few modifications, but what you're looking at is tried and true. Those are the foundations. They've been the foundations for that period of time. The aquatics is what's gonna see the fluctuation and change. So that's also a great point, that 20 years from now, outdoor aquatics is gonna have changed. And in 20 years from now, if you did do the outdoor pool, in 20 years, you're gonna have the conversation to liven that up and shake it up. Whereas you may not be in that same position with the rec center.
Another point that, when I was trying to make my decision earlier, that I thought of is, we just did the splash pad, and that serves the young children, and it serves the outdoor people. So I don't think we need to worry so much about aquatic center and toddlers, because we just did the splash pad and it's getting used all the time. That thing is packed.
That's a good point.
I agree with you.
One thing we talked about, I think Sheila and I, we were talking about the national survey and how high safety is, let me rephrase, I got ahead of myself, how high that ranks and how important that is. And I did want to comment that when we think about aquatics, it's a part of that. So when we think about life safety, swimming lessons and the ability to swim and getting kids in there, that is a life safety program. So knowing that the community feels so strongly about it, when we think about indoor swimming, we do want to make sure that we are maximizing that. That it's not just swim team, it's that seniors are able to do their health and wellness activities in a low impact environment. It's why aquatics is so important to them. But again, we're really getting kids in there to learn to swim. And if nothing else, it's a life safety issue. And then once Once they get good, then we're talking something a little bit above and beyond that. But having any water space at all to get to our babies, get to our toddlers, get to our school-age kids, that is going to be a life safety program.
How feasible if we go with option 2? I know you said it was possible. How possible to have swimming lessons for children, a 5-year-old child? Is that really going to happen in option 2, or is that really far-fetched?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, when you were talking about that, I was reminded of how I learned to swim, and my first exposure to water was YMCA Little Floaters, where they literally.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Just throw you in?
No, that's.
It'll be 4
YMCA Little
foot.
Floaters is.
It'll be
is
4
how they
foot,
do
so
that.
we'll be able to stand in the pool with the 5-year-old.
So
and
it will still
Yes.
work.
Yes.
I mean, I'm really all about swim lessons. I really want every kid to get their swim lessons.
So a few things. One, you'll probably do a lot of classes. This is what's not ideal. You're gonna do a lot of classes from the deck. You can't have 3-year-olds just hanging out in the water. They can't touch, they don't know what they're doing. So I'm gonna step away from this. Likely, so if this is the pool right here, you're gonna have them remain on the gutter, and that instructor is going to pull them in when they're working on particular things. There is an apparatus that you can buy aftermarket. It's a simple platform. Is it ideal? No. If we had all the money in the world and we could do what we wanted, no, we wouldn't want to go this route. But if we're looking at this type of pool, there's aftermarket products that you can get in there. It, raises them up in the water. Raises the floor, basically, and you can do your lessons there. You may not be able to have as many classes at one time as if you were to have a zero depth or shallow pool, but you can still have classes.
I just didn't want to prioritize swim team to such a high level that we alienate all these
Forget
little
about the
kids.
general
I
public.
agree.
Right.
I agree.
I mean, it is important, but it's a very small group of people compared to the entire town.
So we thought about that, the therapy pool. So the therapy pool, the reason we call it that, not a hot tub, is because it's not a hot tub. It's at a temperature that's warmer than the main body of water, but it's below the threshold of a hot tub. One of the primary reasons, not the only reason, but a big reason we do that is we want kids in that water. We don't have to restrict their use in that. So your itty bitties, they can go do lessons out of the therapy pool. Yes, you're probably going to close it down so you can have 1 or 2 classes in that body of water, but it is still something. So that's a consideration down the line on, can we get an in-water bench in there? If we can, that means the kids can stand on that bench. You're going to have to lifeguard it regardless.
Well, how deep is it there?
It'll be in that 3.5 to 4 feet somewhere. Again, that's a decision everyone will need to make at the appropriate time, but it's going to be in that 3.5 to 4 foot. Adults and seniors are going to want to use that. I'm short, and I at least need 3.5 feet, so you're probably going to be looking at 4. But if you have an in-water bench in there, that means you can have kids stand on that, and now you can be having some lessons out of your therapy pool too. It's not the only reason we put the therapy pool in, but it certainly is a good benefit to having that therapy pool, the warmer water and the capability of it.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
What if, instead of a therapeutic pool, like a kiddie pool, if we did like a, not a very big pool, but a 0 entrance little kiddie pool, to where we can use that year round for little kids? Is that much of a cost difference?
Cost difference, no, but it's gonna be
That's a
really
small area.
It's very small. It's only 200 square feet.
And we can't afford anything bigger.
It's
right?
400 in option 1, but
Right.
because of the budget, I had to cut it in half in option 2.
Yeah, I like the bigger one better.
Yeah, I know. Is there any way to get the bigger one?
Riddle me this, would you, so right now you have about, let me go back to my notes, 7,300 square feet right now earmarked for fitness cardio studio space. It's something we could look at if you wanted to reallocate space, it's an option. That we could go look at the rec center side. If you want more in aquatics, we would need to go look at the rec center and see where can we pull or reduce.
Party room? Did a lot of people want a party room?
Yes.
I know, that was my
God,
thought too.
Gosh,
but
I
then-
hate those party
Yeah,
rooms.
that would,
Your gym
that would
is
bring
gonna
in
be
some.
busy.
But the party room can also be used as a meeting
Right,
room
that's
for,
And kitty
that's
stuff.
Classes.
and
for
kitty
other
and
classes,
stuff,
I don't know.
arts.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right, never mind, I'm just keeping,
I
there's
know,
that.
I
No,
thought
it's a
the
good
same
thought.
thing. That was
To the best of my
There's some
understanding, the
space.
2 middle school and 1 high school court, there's really a need here for court space.
Mhm.
So we try to be,
I don't want to change the courts.
okay, no
Mhm.
courts. The track is what it is. The track surrounds the court, so there's really no opportunity on the track to reduce.
Do we need that much pool mechanical room? I mean,
Say again?
the pool mechanical room,
Mhm.
can we shrink in that, make more room for a,
I can tell you from Ryan and I touring facilities, if you cut your pool mechanical room, you'll
You should
crown
do
yourself for the duration. Because when things start to break,
Every single facility we've visited, they wish they had a more organized and bigger.
And
pool
even
than
bigger.
mechanical room. They're like, if you can do anything, prioritize your mechanical room.
yep,
That's, in fact, that's, why they have the drive that leads right up to it for chemical delivery. Because that's a major, major issue with a lot of pools who have that poorly designed.
go to, on the option 2, the mezzanine. What, like the other 2, did you have any idea what something? I didn't know if that could be, that is expanded, or is it just leave right there at the group exercise and open fitness? That's as big as that part's gonna be.
I think I'm missing your question. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, so this is all, that's the whole,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We're looking at,
We need
from
the
the,
elevation for the natatorium.
Yeah.
from the 400 square foot to the 200 square foot, is it a difference of $200,000?
Because it's not just the pool, it's some building space.
Right.
Yeah. so
I understand
it's
that.
about that, yeah.
So if we could cut $200,000 from somewhere else or come up with $200,000 to add to it, then we could have the 400 square foot therapy pool.
Correct. Which we can do, if that's the directive, we can go back and look at that. We can also determine that at a later time as well.
Yeah.
So we know what the budget is. There's gonna be so many decisions to make for you to get this project, and this is a great example of, this is our direction, and that's the intent of right now, not just today, but this whole study. If and when the ballot passes and now you're ready to go into schematic design, that's a perfect example of one of those negotiations that's gonna have to happen early in design, which we certainly, it can.
Right, I just think it helps us to determine, which one is gonna serve the biggest of our population, and we wanna make sure we don't alienate the little
I
ones.
know. Yeah, they have
If
this
we
black
do
carpet.
indeed go with the rec center, is there an opportunity to maybe incorporate something for that age group?
We can look at that. I mean, if the rec center is what you want, and you want to focus on aquatics, and you're willing to give up, because you all are understanding that we got to give and take places,
Right.
and we're
Sure,
taking from the
sure.
rec center. If we're going to go focus on aquatics, it's where it's coming from, and if that's the consensus of this group, that is then our job at the appropriate time to go sort that out.
Right.
Go figure that out. I can speak to the architect and say yes, because we've already talked about, can we reduce the size of cardio? Can we reduce the size of the fitness room? There is some wiggle room. I would need to work with the architect to determine what does that look and feel like? And what is the minimum amount we have to take in order to go get what we want over at the aquatics piece?
Okay.
And just reminding you guys of the National Community Survey results, what our residents say that we are really missing in Kearney is adult recreation,
Mm-hmm.
adult learning, and recreation programs for adults.
That's not what I hear in Kearney at all. I hear we have nothing for kids and young families.
I hear that too.
That's exactly what I hear, and that's my problem with this whole thing. I can't, if we were just, if there was no history of a desire for a pool, option 2 sounds like a really nice idea right now. You know, I think it's gonna help us recoup the money as quick as possible, and it meets a lot of needs. If we're talking about young families, which we didn't get represented that well on the poll, if we're talking about young families, and I'm not talking about toddlers, I'm talking about elementary school, middle schoolers. These kids would stay in the pool for 8 hours a day. That and trampolines, they love, right? They would do that. So you go option 2, we're talking the older crowd. And I'm in there right now. I'm one that went 3 to 5 days down to Excelsior Springs Community Center as well. But if we're talking about young families, we're gonna need more than just a 400 square little pool for toddlers as well.
That's a good point.
It's one or the other.
Can we get them to vote? Are they registered?
That's the problem.
Can we target them?
I can tell you that how our community is, 27% are 18 to 34 years old, 38% are 35 to 54, and 35% are 55 and above, according to this data. Weighted. Or should I be looking at the 28, 38, and 35?
I have to read the report, I don't know how they calculate it.
There should also be a households.
Households have sex age. Housing type. They asked about if you had children 17 and under, and 54% do not have a child in their household of 17 and under. So, and I also agree with you that people in Kearney, because that was also in the National Community Survey, people want a place to be able to gather. That was something that was very underrated. Like, they want places where they can go and hang out and spend time as a community. And so I agree that there are places, and we have a place, right, like Lions Park in the summer, where young families, I don't know that older people that don't have small kids are hanging out at Lions Park, like gathering.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's tricky, guys.
Yeah,
Like, it's not clear cut, and it's a tricky decision, and.
I know as a young family, we traveled to every one of those comp places we've talked about, all the way down to Tiffany Springs. We went constantly to Plattsburgh Pool, and I still feel like if we go option 2, those young families in Kearney are still going to Plattsburgh Pool.
That's a great
You know
point.
what I mean? That's the point.
That's a great point.
But if they don't care, and half of our community, or 54% now, would rather option 2, well then, maybe that's the direction. It's so hard because it didn't tilt that much. We're so even.
It'd be simple if it tilted one way. Okay. That's
Be really simple.
I don't guess we have time to have another month where we target young families, where we actively seek their input. I mean, I don't know.
We would just need to delay going to the Board of Aldermen. We will not be able to wait much longer and still meet the dates that we need to meet in order to get to final presentation. If that was approved, or that was the direction, and then that was the way we were gonna go, we could take another month. We just need the extra time on the back end and push
You
it.
advertise this survey on Peach Jar, the second survey, we did the first.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, we targeted young, like.
You did?
We targeted, and possibly, maybe it was that it was summer and that families were traveling and off, but.
You feel like we put it out there and they just
I
didn't
think it
answer.
was out there.
That's just the second
and-
survey. We still have the first survey. So there are some people, I can almost guarantee, because we've heard it before, they don't want to take multiple surveys.
Yeah.
We took the
Right.
second one
That's
to them
true.
because the
Right.
rec center
That's
was,
true.
nobody had talked about it yet.
Right.
We have to go back. But if we look at the first survey again, aquatics was, it was hot. And that outdoor pool was hot. It was when we started talking about rec center that things started to change. Now, yes, rec center came up in survey 1. So I don't want, we shouldn't just look at survey 2 in isolation. Survey 1 still matters. And there's families who reported in survey 1. And they're saying that, yeah, we have a desire for outdoor aquatics. So again, I only say that because they have been represented. You're just not seeing it in the tool we were hoping to give us.
Good point.
And they have to choose, like, nobody wants to choose, right? They want it all. And
That would be nice.
it would.
That would solve it all.
So what if we did this? So I realize you all maybe only
I wish I
meet
could.
once a month, every other?
Once a month.
Once a month. So in 3 weeks from now, we're gonna have Ballard King's information back. I don't know if that's gonna matter to you or not, as far as what the operating projections are gonna be for revenue and expenditure. I am really interested to know what that difference is gonna be, because I'm keeping the 400,000 in my mind. So,
My question to you is if that's when we're going to get that information, and they'll have it on both scenarios, correct? That would be the last time that we could say it's either that option or that option then.
very, very last, and we would
Very
really, to be honest with you, I'd like to know what changes on both are gonna be desired, because we will not have much time.
Right,
To-
because we don't want to, I don't want to slow this down, this process down, because you're going to have to do design, we've got to go to the Board of Aldermen, their recommendations, and so on and so forth.
So Ballard and King, they're coming in to talk about feasibility of the rec center, right?
Operating costs.
And operating costs.
They'll do ranges based off of size and character.
I mean, we also talk about that with the outdoor aquatics. I think last time we talked, I mean, we were talking about 27, 30 people to operate that at 1.2, and that was kind of an overwhelming number
That
for me
was.
too, even knowing there's a lifeguard shortage and you can't, you know. So
a huge
you know,
factor.
having all that as part of the discussion, I think is valuable as well.
Yeah, so I will end up, Ballard King is not gonna come in. We could patch him in. I try to keep fees as low with Ballard King as we could. So he's not local. So we're gonna have him work remote. He can do that. He does it, this is what he does for a living, is just this, planning like this. So we could see if he could patch in. I have a concern of waiting a full month
I don't think we can wait a full month.
under the schedule.
I
It's-
do not think,
Can the park board have a special meeting?
I was gonna say, can we just have another meeting?
can we do that, a special meeting? I'm not,
As long as you
We've had
advertise
them
it.
yeah,
But what's the timing, like, I mean.
we won't know anything for 3 weeks anyway.
Well, because I'd really like to have a consensus to take to the Board of
Board of
Aldermen
Aldermen for their
before
meetings.
their October.
So if we have a consensus tonight, if we can come up with one, it's still, I mean, it's just a recommendation to the board of Aldermen.
It is.
And they could come up
The
with
board
something
gets-
totally different.
The final
So it
say.
takes the monkey off our back in some ways.
Yeah, but we as a board want some good.
They want a
reason.
recommendation.
The operating projections, it's a tool. Everything leading up to now, what that's really gonna do is it's gonna say, is that gonna fall in your 400,000 subsidy level? Because the revenues and expenditures coming in, I don't know exactly how your finances work. On a very simple basis, we wanna bring in to help offset the expenditures. The 400,000 goes to expenditures, but the more we can offset with revenue, the better.
Yes.
What that document is going to do is help confirm that the rec center can fit within that parameter. So assuming that it can, so let's say $400,000 is worst case scenario. With the revenue you bring in, you need to cover 400,000, you've got that covered. So, I mean, that's the hope. So if the decision is only based on that, I don't know how we not wait.
Right,
If that is just one piece to your consensus building, and we just want to confirm this 400,000 situation, but we're not going to lean on that entirely, then you can make a decision now. Knowing that if that comes back, are you going to change your recommendation to the board? So if you can't make it happen with the 400,000, will you change your mind? And is that going to change the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen?
You were going to say something, Sheila?
For me, the Ballard King study is to figure out and let residents know how much less their fees would be able to be than the
That's
fees we
not,
got.
that's the pro forma.
I know, but I feel like it's going to help.
We can talk about, I mean, they're geared for that. We can talk about that.
If we had a kiddie pool.
Okay.
I would have a kiddie pool.
Big picture, the aquatic center, big picture, aquatic center is going to be cheaper for participation than a rec center on daily memberships and season yearly memberships.
So Eric, are you wanting a motion from us on a recommendation for the Board of Aldermen?
I am.
Okay.
I feel like we're ready to do that.
I think we
Do
can
the
do
rest
that.
of you feel like we're ready to do that?
So the poll number 1 showed some different leanings than poll number 2. So how do we balance those two?
In that we had no rec center, number one. It was only aquatics. That's how this whole thing began. If you can give me just a moment, because it's been long enough, I don't know exactly what page. I can go look at the indoor-outdoor questions.
I have them.
Yeah, I'm flipping through it
Oh,
as well.
this
If you have it.
is this what you're looking for, Ray, or this?
Oh, no, I was looking at the results.
Oh, okay.
I want to make
I
sure
just
that
have
you
it.
guys know that we as staff are not trying to rush you, but we're on the timeline of everything that has to fall in place to get it to the Board of Aldermen. And with the final recommendation, because they're going to come in November to us. That's only 2 meetings away,
Right.
Yeah, we've got to make it move it
you
tonight.
know.
So what was the turnout for the first survey?
Just over 14.
And then the second one was just over 1,000?
Yeah.
With 821 city residents.
And then what was the outdoor versus indoor on the 1,400?
On the 1,400,
Mhm.
well, 1,400 was total. That wasn't just Kearney. Consider that 1,200
Mhm.
Kearney.
Okay.
So for Kearney only, I'm going to read it how it's listed here. Outdoor only swimming was, we asked the question, let me just show it to you. It's going to be easier to show it to you than what it's going to be to explain it. We asked this question in a different type of way. So what we're looking at is we want to know how they rank in comparison to each other. And I can come over here and show you too in just a moment. So the lower the rank, I'm sorry, the lower the number, the lower the ranking. So we asked outdoor swimming, and this is low to high. Outdoor swimming, where do you fall here? That's the lowest ranking. The highest ranked option. And if you look at these numbers, these two are pretty similar. Now, these two, it starts with the number of surveys we have, these two start to separate themselves a little bit. So outdoor and indoor swimming both ranked highest.
So indoor was higher on the first survey?
Outdoor and indoor.
Well,
Or are you just looking at these
just
two?
comparatively
Correct.
the two, because we can't do both right
Correct.
now. So if we have to choose, the people said that indoor was what they wanted the most. In
The highest
first
was
survey.
outdoor and indoor.
It was
There's
outdoor and
option one.
indoor. So you're gonna have folks who want outdoor living down here. So we can't compare these two. They were lumped together. Let me show them so they know what we're talking about. So this was a question, again, it's getting presented, it was a different question format, so the results are gonna look a little different. The lower the score, the lower the ranking. So what we asked people is, which one meets your needs most? Outdoor, indoor, or both? What we're talking about is, can we compare these two and say, well, indoor ranks higher? It's a stretch to do that because you have people who want outdoor who have marked down here too. So had we not asked that, sure, then we could go back to this question, but it's hard to say indoor versus outdoor on this question because we didn't ask it that way.
So then how did the rec center get involved?
Comments.
In the
From
comments
the
section.
first survey?
Comments, yeah. Survey and first public meeting.
So people started writing about it,
I think,
talking
but
about
people
it.
are thinking, I want it all.
I want
I
it
want a
all.
rec center and a pool, and we have to decide which one we're gonna do. And
People want
that's
it
not,
all.
the feedback we got.
We all want it all. We just.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to pay for it.
Yeah.
And no one wants to pay for it.
And because
I said yes to paying
people
for it.
wanted indoor swimming, that's why both options include indoor swimming.
Mm-hmm.
Indoor swimming, outside
Well,
of
it
that,
makes sense because it's year round as well.
you have a large section of the community, whether or not they have swimmers who are supporting swimming here. And you saw them at your public, like I said, they really showed up to talk, and they're champions of this project.
Yeah.
And the indoor comp pool is what's getting them there.
I just don't see the need for this big outdoor thing if it's just for the city. If you're bringing people, if your intent is to bring people from outside, that would be it.
We're
But I
bringing
just,
people from the
I
outside
would-
with 12 pickleball courts. You don't think that's gonna bring people in?
I just, you know, how Plattsburgh's like $5 and you have a slide and you can cater to all ages.
Right?
And
I mean, that's
Do you
not gonna
want
be
them
that
going
much.
to Plattsburgh?
That's not gonna be that much
Do you
more.
want them going to Plattsburgh?
no, I'm saying like that's what we make the outdoor instead of this big monstrous bunch of slides.
It's actually not a big pool.
Yeah,
No,
it's,
it's not a big
it's not,
Oh, it
It's-
looks
It's a lot of
It's-
concrete.
It's only about
stuff.
5,500 square feet.
but it's got features that kids that are grade school age, middle school age, that want that type of a thing.
Yeah, to give you perspective, that lap pool is about 3,600 square feet.
Mm.
So it's about 2,000 square feet larger, so not quite double. I put up on the screen here, I brought this just in case the conversation went here. You're the star. Of course you are the star. The dots in green, and if you want to flip around, you can see it on this back screen too, those are the outdoor pools. And so you do have people in the community saying, we have little access near us. And so graphically, you can see what they're talking about. Now, over in Excelsior, you see that red dot? That is indicating an outdoor pool, but there's also a community center right there. There's a community center down Liberty to the south too. So I only showcase this because you do have a portion of the community saying, we have minimal access to outdoor swimming. And it's why they're ranking the way they are and saying outdoor swimming is really important to me. We already have rec service nearby, Excelsior being very near, and then Liberty being second to that. Whereas aquatics, outdoor aquatics, the closest is gonna be Plattsburgh, and there's a few private down there in that grouping. But the Springs is really the closest municipal.
Do you have numbers on how many people make comments about the rec center?
I could go back and, I don't have it with me, but I could go back and,
I mean, because if it's just a handful,
it's a
why are we even contemplating it? I mean, what's the actual number? If you had however many we had for outdoor and indoor, why are we even contemplating the rec center?
We did contemplate the rec center because, not just because there was comments, it was quite a few of them. And the nature of the comments was, I support nothing unless it's a rec center. And so it was the strength of the comment in addition to the quantity.
One comment? I mean, I really would
That's a
like
great
to see that,
But
because
on the
if
survey,
one
300
loud person.
362 people voted for it versus 354. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
On the
difference of
second
eight.
survey.
Yeah, it's a
so
difference of
we
8
do have
votes.
362 people, so, and 354, so it's just tied, basically. But
Yeah, there's no real good way to parse it. It's
No.
just gonna be tied. We just-
I'll go back and look at it
As
for
a
you.
board, you have to
I
make a
don't
decision.
know.
But I see what you're saying. You're like, why are we even looking at it? It's only because.
Yeah, it's like, Kearney needs a pool for years and years and years. Well, now, why are we muddying the waters with a rec center, which would be amazing.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Would be amazing.
It all would be amazing.
It's just which one do we think could get the votes? I mean, I don't know. It's a crystal ball. It's really all about which one can we get through. Both would be great. Either would be great.
Well, from what I got out of the data, 78% of the population said they would use the rec center.
That's true.
78% of the people that voted,
Right.
Good point.
800 people in a 10,000 person town. So I don't know what the real numbers are, because people in this town don't vote very well.
But
And
will
we
they be
can't
willing
help
to
them
pay
if
the
they
membership?
don't.
I know.
But will they be willing to pay the membership it requires? Because they're also saying it's got to be reasonable, ideally free. So if there's not a way to make that membership cheap,
Inexpensive.
inexpensive, thank you, much
Cost
better
effective.
word, thank you, cost effective, then although they said, yes, we're going to attend, they may not actually translate that into a membership because they're not going to be able to go through not be able to or be unwilling to go through the property tax increase plus pay the membership it's going to be required to attend. That is probably, from our perspective, it's something we keep leaning back on is, yes, people want both, yes, rec center and aquatic center, but they keep telling us drilling, fees. Fees have to be reasonable. And the aquatic center it's just going to be cheaper.
And also that third financing didn't really get a lot of support, right? Yeah, it was the Go bonds?
Yeah, we dropped that.
We didn't need it because assessed valuation grew big enough that we could do it, without it. So we'll be able to get the majority of our financing through GO bonds, and then you'll be able to do a small certificate of participation bond issue that doesn't require a vote. So all the vote will come through the GO bonds, if that makes sense. So we only needed 2 questions instead of 3.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It was just based on growth and assessed valuation in the city.
Okay.
I'm worried that the Ballard King, the fees are going to be higher than what can cover. That's my only concern.
That would be a big.
That's a big concern.
Absolutely.
That's
And then we're back to the drawing board and we have to come back and get a recommendation from you to go to option 1.
So let's just go with option one.
One of the things that is a real possibility. So whenever you have tax levies and set tax levies, operating levies are subject to the Hancock Amendment. Debt levies are set at, they don't roll back. You keep them at whatever you need them to be to pay off the debt, to pay off the principal and interest of the bonds. One of the things that, and as assessed valuation grows, you bring in more revenue that can go to pay off the principal and interest. There is a possibility, I mean, our assessed value grows every year, that we could keep that levy where it was, pay off more principal and interest, pay off the principal quicker, and get to an option where then we can ask voters if they would now like to build the other option sooner than 20 years. But I would never want to promise that to anyone.
How likely would you say that is? In your experience?
It is very likely if the economy stays how it is right now.
Yeah.
And I have no crystal ball.
Sure, of course.
So
Right.
I conservatively, like, I always want to be very honest with the public and give them I don't want to promise them something that we might not be able to deliver on. So, but I want you guys to know if there is a possibility that there could be an opportunity to do the next phase with voter approval. Sooner than 20 years, but I can't tell you how much sooner.
But are we also going to have to be going to the voters because we need to expand a sewer plant during that time? So then people are going to have to decide, you want a pool, you want to flush your toilet? You know, we're going to have those things come up during that time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And for proprietary funds like water and sewer, those are fee-based, and user rates are supposed to be supporting those
projects.
things, right? So it would be a revenue bond issue.
Right, but still, it would be, we're coming back to the voters multiple times for money.
Yeah, well, I mean, only if they want it. right, like nothing's for free, so if you want an amenity, it does cost money, and you could choose that you don't want that amenity because you can't afford it, just like we do at home in our personal budgets. So, yes.
And again, we showed the map, there's no aquatics in the area. How many like on the rec side, how many gyms do we have in our community? And how many people are gonna leave those gyms to go to the community center, which.
I mean, like fitness gyms,
There's like 4 in Kearney,
Five
right?
right now.
5.
That's a lot.
And don't think though of the recreation facility as more of an exercise space. It is more to have a place to be able to have classes like yoga or have more gyms available for our youth rec programs, because right now we don't have enough gym space
Yeah,
to be
I
able
could
to
definitely see
expand.
the value there.
So don't think of it as, I think people they're not gonna go to the rec center, I don't think, just for.
I think it's an amenity.
Well, cardio fitness is 6,000 square feet. That's a very large portion of that rec center, which is duplicating,
Then
again,
maybe you can,
what we have here.
maybe that's where you get the space for the
Kiddie pool.
So that is an option. We talked about it internally. Internally meaning the consultant team, not staff. Drop second floor, drop fitness and studio room. Put the track on the perimeter of the gym, keep the gym, track on the perimeter, but lose second floor. If we were to do that, we could go through the exercise and see what we can add aquatics-wise. Then we're in the position of, now, the gym, I want to say the gym itself is going to be in that million target. Let's say million, 1.5. Just for the purpose of the conversation. That is going to free up quite a bit of money if we are reducing.
Taking out the second floor.
Taking out the second floor, getting rid of fitness and all that. So if that is of interest, we can do the workup on that. And then we could see what can we get outdoor aquatics in that scenario. It will not be as big as.
Did you just say outdoor aquatics?
Outdoor or indoor, whatever path we would be going along. I'm saying outdoor for some of the points that he's brought up, but wherever it was gonna go, we can reallocate it and then go look at it again.
I was thinking I would just go indoor pool kiddie space, but.
That's something that this
Family
community needs
space.
You guys
to.
say,
We don't want a puddle, we want a family space.
Well, while we're on this topic, I have always felt like
I think there went the consensus.
I was not leaning towards a rec center, because if you wanted to go work out at a gym, you had a lot of opportunity to do that in the area for $30 a month, or whatever the fees are right now. So for me, the fitness portion of this isn't a make it or break it.
Like, I can tell you, I don't mean to interrupt, I can tell you from the Parks and Rec staff perspective, the thing that's really exciting to us is the studio space and the gym space.
Yeah, so the gymnasium,
Yeah, exactly.
the pool.
And by studio, I mean group exercise.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily.
and are you talking studio as in the gymnasium or in this open
Well,
fitness
Specifically
area?
where it says group exercise, that and the gym space. And the reason for that is because that allows us to create more programming.
And could you do that programming in a gymnasium or in another group exercise building off to the side of the gymnasium? It wouldn't have to be all this business upstairs.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That was the point I was trying to make, was out of all of that, it's probably our least, what we feel is our least needed. Not saying we don't need it. Just saying, if we had to cut something, I think that'd probably be it.
Oh, you would cut the group exercise? I thought you were saying
No,
don't.
he would cut
We
the
would
weight.
cut the open
Cut the
fitness.
weights, yeah,
Cut the
I've
weights
always
apart.
felt that way.
And I
Do
agree.
you still
Just
have
so
group
many people-
exercise if you're getting rid of the second floor?
Studio space, it wouldn't just be group exercise. That's really not a great name for it, honestly.
Multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose, so
Yeah.
dance, yoga.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
couldn't
But I
we
mean,
put,
if,
you know,
so
Nick,
we were
couldn't
talking
put
about
that off to
eliminating the
side?
second floor and reallocating those funds to maybe something else on the aquatic side.
Yes,
Or if we did that second floor, we're not getting that fitness or
Sure.
group exercise that you're talking
I
about.
mean, it's potentially something we could.
But we're still getting the gym,
but,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Which is going to be used nonstop.
right?
100%.
Yeah,
And you can do
100%.
some of the group exercises in the gym,
Yeah.
like in Excelsior,
absolutely.
for the pound and Zumba classes, she's raking in 30 to 35 people a night to do those classes in the big gym.
Okay.
Or maybe even
The gym
getting
is
rid-
going to get used.
getting rid of
It's
that
gonna
party
get used
room
12 months
and-
out of the year.
Doing more group exercise in there or something.
I think the
Well,
thing
you
that's
could-
being
you could-
overlooked in all
You could
this.
just build another,
To me,
Building.
I'm finally feeling something. Getting rid of that second floor, still having the gyms
I
and
think
the
the thing that's
space.
being overlooked in having this particular discussion is that the upkeep and the yearly cost of water space is far more
That's true.
than dry space. And I mean, that's something that's not built into the 400,000. So that 400,000 quickly becomes 450, 500,000 if we do that. So that's something we have to keep in mind. And I mean, that
Water is the
pretty
big,
accurate.
water is the big driving cost.
Yeah, that's.
If we can lose the second floor and put in a kiddie
No,
pool.
I agree with all of that. That's why
I
when I
mean-
see the
Closest thing
stay
we get to
outdoor, I'm
getting it
like,
all.
"Ugh," but
You know, like-
everybody wants it, but it's not financially responsible.
Okay, I feel like we're closest to some consensus. Here, let me repeat back what I've heard. Ditch the second floor. There is a need for group exercise classes, but although we've labeled spaces here, let's look at the party room. Think of that as a multi-purpose room.
Mhm.
You can have classes, you can have parties, you can have your classes there. I want to go back and look at the square footage though on that, because it's pretty small.
It
On the
looks
smaller
small.
side,
Let
but
us go back.
you got signups.
What'd you say?
Signups. First come, first serve. Create demand.
Okay, we'll need to do the workup on that. From there, any funds that have been freed up. Now we're on, are we looking at the indoor aquatics? Or are we looking at what you see indoor plus outdoor?
Well, I would like to see you take the money from the second floor, and I still would like to see a kiddie pool
a zero entry pool
Okay,
for
on the inside or the outside?
on the inside. I mean, we could do, I mean,
And that keeps your employees still down. You're not looking at that 40 employee thing,
That's used 12 months out of the year.
right? It keeps 12 months out of the year.
so instead of the therapeutic school or pool type thing, make it a little kiddie pool. Then we got something for the little kids year round that they can come in and do, moms bring kids in, whatever. And then we still got the lanes and everything, and I think that's a happy medium between the two.
Is there a way to design a zero entry at one end? I'm talking about the separate therapy kiddie pool. Zero entry at one end, but then have the bars and things around on this side for therapy.
Yeah, separate toddler pool.
Like an area where the toddlers would enter,
yeah,
but then
and on
this
the opposite of that.
would be more of the
space.
adult
You're talking about
side
two
of
different
that.
pools or
No,
what?
one
Just one
pool,
pool?
one body of water,
Mhm.
two purposes.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
the answer is yes, but what we need to do, because the building is the expensive part, the pool isn't the expensive part, it's the building that's the expensive
Mhm.
part. So what I need to do is go back, redo the budget, given everything we've talked about, and see how big can that pool be. If
Okay.
that pool can be a decent size, yes. And I think in any case, the answer is yes, because even if there's just one bar on the far wall, now that I'm talking it out, kids won't be able to jump in over that thing. We're gonna
Right.
have to restrict access in some way with any sort of system like that, but sure, I mean, it could happen. And therapy, it's the bar, but it's also the temperature. So with the separate kids pool, that body of water will be warmer, not as warm as a therapy pool, but
Right.
warmer than a comp pool.
Right.
So I think that also, it does strike a balance.
Okay.
between the therapy use and the kids' use. Absolutely.
Can you keep the track on the first floor?
Track, yeah, we would drop it. So in the concept you see here, there is enough space along the perimeter. Now, the track will be a part of the gym. So it'll just be kind of marked on the perimeter walls, whatever the minimum distance is to make that a track, and it's just going to surround the gym itself. So you just be walking around the courts is what's going to happen. It would not be in addition to the gym.
Oh, so you're wiping out the whole thing. See, I thought you were gonna leave the raised track, come up when we have a track around, you're talking about doing away with the whole, okay.
I'll need to talk to the architect though, because if you change your mind later and you do want fitness or you do want to expand this thing later, we need to make sure that we've built this thing appropriately so you can do that. So it's not just going to be a wash of removing that. There's going to have to be footings. There is construction that has to be done so you can come back later if you choose to do so. At least that would be the recommendation given where we've been and what we're talking about.
All right, let's do it before we change our minds again.
Okay, so let me start over. Let me summarize, want to make sure I got it, and then you can make your motion if it's the appropriate time to do so. Getting rid of the second floor. Track's going to go to the first floor and surround the gym space itself. We're going to look at what we're now going to be calling the multi-purpose room, see if we can expand that, and to what degree we can expand that to accommodate group fitness, classes, and party use, wherever direction you may go. Given the remaining budget that we have to work with all those changes, we're going to go back to the indoor aquatics, get rid of the therapy pool, and look at what is the biggest kids pool from 0 depth down to 3.5, 4 feet of water that we can get in that space within the budget. Does that sound?
That could also double as a therapy pool.
Kids pool.
But we
We're
don't
not
wanna
going to call it therapy pool.
But we're not gonna
because
call
of
it
the
a therapy
temperature.
pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kids pool and multi-use pool. Do I understand that appropriately as you all
But
understand?
I think our older voters, yeah, we cannot call it a kids' pool,
Leisure pool.
but
Leisure. She said
Leisure pool.
leisure pool, yeah, leisure pool, something, because they were pretty excited about that.
And on the large competitive pool, water aerobics can be done in that.
All your aerobics.
Perfect.
You could,
Okay.
all your aerobics, including deep water aerobics.
I like that.
Okay,
All right, do I have a motion to recommend option 2 to the Board of Aldermen with the changes that she has just mentioned?
Yeah.
Who said yes?
I did.
Ally
Who made the
said-
motion?
Ally's making the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second that?
Who's seconding?
Dan?
You want to rock, paper, scissors?
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that's our recommendation. Thank you for hanging
you,
in there with
Lauren.
us.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
you all hanging in. That was a big
It was a lot.
decision.
It was a lot.
I'm very proud of you.
but now we've dumped more back on you, which is,
No, but this is what it's meant to be. This is how things go right.
This is how we get what's right for the community.
then when bids come in way low,
What's an important decision?
It's a very important decision.
Then we'll go right back to, we want the second floor.
Yeah,
we're gonna go back to
we're still in a public meeting.
I know.
Keller King, initially we were gonna have them do the different options. Can we give them the guidance? It's gonna be option 2 with the modifications.
Well,
All right.
are they still gonna give us both?
Well, that's my question too.
Connie,
Do we have any more board comments?
question,
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Valor King study that we're getting ready to kick off. Do you want them to do option 1 plus option 2 with modification, or just option 2 with modification?
Just one, I think.
Just
You mean-
option 2 with modification?
You mean just option 2 is the
Just
one?
one option.
Just one of the options.
That's my opinion.
Well, I'm not so sure about it, because if it finds out that we can't do one or the other, then that's gonna be a deciding factor is how much that is. So I think for us to know that, I think we need to have both. Because if all of a sudden, hey, we're doing this here, but all of a sudden that cost isn't gonna work, maybe we need to go back and look at option 1 because, hey, we can actually afford to do that. I mean, I think we need to have him look at both.
Okay.
All right, let's just get both and then we'll have it. All right. Any more board comments?
Can we afford to have them do both? Is that cost?
Don't worry about it, we've sorted this out.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
We being consultant team has sorted this out.
Okay, okay.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I moved to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.